Story disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction and is intended for entertainment purposes only. The content includes dark themes, horror elements, and fictional depictions of rituals and sacrifices that are purely imaginative and not reflective of any real-life practices or beliefs. Viewer discretion is advised. This video is not suitable for younger audiences, and parental guidance is recommended. The story does not endorse or promote any harmful behavior, violence, or dangerous activities. Please note that all characters, events, and settings are entirely fictional and created for the purpose of storytelling. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events, is purely coincidental. Jason, a young marketing executive in Lagos, craves success and fame but finds himself drawn into the dark web of the Shadow Collective, a sinister cult that promises power at a terrible cost. As Jason's life spirals deeper into darkness, he begins to question what it will cost to escape the cult's grasp. Together with his loyal friends Ade and Nkechi, Jason embarks on a treacherous journey to confront the shadows, expose their manipulations, and reclaim his freedom. The gripping 30-chapter saga unfolds with intense battles, powerful rituals, and a fight for light against the rising shadows. Will Jason break free, or will the cult pull him back into its dark clutches? In the bustling city of Lagos, where tall buildings stretched towards the sky and the streets buzzed with life, Jason stared at his reflection in the glass of his office window. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the city, but Jason felt anything but bright. As a marketing executive, he knew success was measured by social media followers and flashy lifestyles. Yet, his Instagram account barely had 100 followers. He wanted more. He needed more. Every day, he watched others post perfect pictures of their lives, luxurious cars, expensive dinners, and glamorous parties. They seemed so happy, and Jason felt a tight knot of envy in his stomach. His friends, who once cheered him on, now barely noticed him. It was a lonely feeling, one that grew darker with each passing day. One evening, while scrolling through his phone, Jason came across a mysterious post. It was a cryptic message about a group called the Shadow Collective. The post promised power, wealth, and the ability to influence others like never before. The words seemed to pull him in, whispering secrets he had longed to hear. Jason's heart raced. Could this be the answer to his problems? Determined, he followed the post's instructions, leading him to an old, dimly lit building on the outskirts of the city. The air was thick with a strange energy, and he felt both excited and afraid. As he stepped inside, he was met by a group of people dressed in dark robes. They looked at him with piercing eyes, as if they could see straight into his soul. "Welcome, Jason," a voice called out from the shadows. A woman with long, flowing hair stepped forward. "We've been waiting for you. Are you ready to change your life?" Jason hesitated but then nodded. He felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was his chance. The woman explained that the cult practiced dark magic, using rituals that could grant him the influence and riches he desired. All he had to do was participate in their ceremonies. The more he wanted, the deeper he would have to go. With his heart pounding, Jason agreed. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. As he left the building that night, he felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. Little did he know, the path he had chosen would lead him to a world darker than he could ever imagine. The next day, Jason woke up with a burning desire to prove himself. He felt an electric energy coursing through him, igniting a fire he hadn't felt in years. He couldn't wait to begin the rituals that would change everything. His mind raced with thoughts of fame, wealth, and the life he had always wanted. That night, he returned to the old building, where the members of the Shadow Collective waited. The air was thick with anticipation, and the dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine, but he pushed it away. This was his moment. The leader of the cult stood in front of him, a tall man with a deep voice. Tonight, we will perform our first ritual. It will connect you to the energy of success. But remember, Jason, every gift has a cost. His words echoed in Jason's mind, sending a chill through him. The ritual began with chants and strange symbols drawn on the floor. The members surrounded Jason, their eyes locked on him, filled with an intensity that made his heart race. They instructed him to focus on his desires, to visualize the life he wanted. He closed his eyes, imagining himself with millions of followers, a lavish lifestyle, and friends who admired him. Suddenly, he felt a surge of energy. It was as if the air had thickened around him, wrapping him in a warm embrace. Jason opened his eyes, and a rush of exhilaration filled him. He could sense the power flowing through him, connecting him to something greater. But then, he noticed something strange. As he looked at the members of the cult, he saw shadows creeping along their faces. Their smiles felt too wide, too sharp, as if they were not quite human. A wave of fear washed over him, but he quickly dismissed it. He had come too far to turn back now. After the ritual ended, Jason returned home, buzzing with newfound energy. He opened his social media accounts and gasped. His follower count had skyrocketed. Within hours, he had gained thousands of followers, and the likes poured in. He felt invincible. But as the excitement washed over him, a dark thought crept in. What had he truly unleashed? The cost of his success was yet to be revealed, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into a web of shadows. With each passing day, Jason's life transformed. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications, people adored him. He was invited to glamorous parties, received offers for collaborations, then even caught the attention of local influencers. But as he reveled in his success, he noticed something unsettling. Friends he once trusted started acting strangely. One evening, at a lavish party, his best friend, Ode, approached him. "Jason, what's happening to you? You're changing. This isn't you." Ode's voice was laced with concern, but Jason brushed it off, feeling a surge of anger. He had worked hard for this, and he wasn't about to let anyone ruin it. As weeks turned into months, Jason became increasingly isolated. The cult's rituals grew darker, demanding more from him. He was instructed to channel his desires through twisted ceremonies that fed on the fears and sorrows of those around him. At first, he was exhilarated. He felt powerful, as if he could control the world with a mere thought. But soon, strange things began to happen. Friends began to drift away, and whispers filled the air. People would stare at him with fear in their eyes, and the city felt different, as if it had darkened around him. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the rituals were taking a toll on everyone he knew. One night, after a particularly intense ritual, he returned home to find his apartment in disarray. Objects were strewn across the floor, and a chilling wind blew through the windows. Fear gripped him. He realized he hadn't just gained followers, he had lost something precious. His friends were slipping away, and he was left alone in a world that felt increasingly hostile. As he sank into despair, Jason saw a shadow dart across the wall. Panic surged through him. What was happening? Was he losing his mind? Just then, his phone buzzed again, drawing his attention. A message from an unknown number appeared. "You must choose power or humanity. What do you value most?" The message sent shivers down his spine. In that moment, Jason understood the truth. His success came with a price he had yet to pay. The shadows were closing in, and he had to confront the reality of his choices before it was too late. Jason lay awake that night, the weight of the message pressing down on him. He thought about the sacrifices he had made to achieve his newfound fame. Each follower felt like a shadow, an echo of the dark magic that surrounded him. He could hear whispers in the dark, calling to him, begging for his attention. It was overwhelming. The next day, he met with Ade, hoping to mend their friendship. But Ade was distant, his eyes clouded with worry. Jason, you're losing yourself. This isn't who you are. You need to stop, he urged. Jason felt a surge of anger rise within him. Stop. I've worked too hard to let it all go. The tension thickened between them, and Jason could feel the darkness creeping in, warping his thoughts. You don't understand, he shouted, feeling the shadows around him pulse with anger. Ade stepped back, fear flashing across his face. You're not the same, Jason. I'm worried about you. That night, as Jason prepared for another ritual, doubts crept into his mind. He stood in front of the mirror, his reflection twisted and distorted by the flickering candlelight. He had changed, but at what cost? The power coursing through him felt like a double-edged sword, cutting deeper into his humanity. The cult's leader appeared, her presence both alluring and terrifying. Tonight, you will witness the true strength of the Shadow Collective, she proclaimed. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine. What do you mean? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. You will see what true power looks like. It demands sacrifice, Jason. Are you willing to pay the price? The words hung in the air, and Jason felt the weight of the decision heavy upon him. As they began the ritual, he watched in horror as they summoned a dark energy. The shadows twisted and writhed, feeding off the despair of those who had been abandoned. Jason felt a knot in his stomach, realizing the pain around him was real. It was coming from the friends and loved ones he had pushed away in his quest for fame. Suddenly, he saw Ade's face flash in his mind, his eyes filled with fear and sorrow. The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. If he continued down this path, he would lose everything he held dear. The shadows laughed, but Jason's heart pounded with determination. He had to find a way to reclaim his humanity before it was too late. Jason's mind raced as he left the ritual, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what he had witnessed. He had always wanted success, but at what cost? The laughter of the shadows echoed in his ears, a haunting reminder of the darkness he had invited into his life. Desperate to regain control, Jason reached out to Ade. They met at a small cafe, the warm light contrasting sharply with the coldness that enveloped Jason's heart. As he looked into his friend's eyes, he could see the hurt and fear. I'm sorry, Ade. I didn't realize how far I had fallen, he admitted, his voice trembling. Ade sighed, relief washing over his face. I just want you back, Jason. This isn't you. You're better than this. Jason felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. But as they talked, a shadow loomed over them, and the cafe grew eerily quiet. Jason looked around, his heart racing. The feeling of dread was palpable. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a member of the Shadow Collective. You can't escape us, Jason, the figure hissed, eyes glinting with malice. The power you seek is ours to control. The air thickened, and Jason felt a wave of panic wash over him. Ade stood protectively in front of Jason. Leave him alone, he shouted, but the figure only laughed, the chilling sound that echoed through the cafe. You cannot shield him from the darkness he has chosen. In that moment, Jason felt a surge of anger and fear. I don't want this, he shouted, the words bursting from him like a dam breaking. The figure's laughter faltered, and for a split second, Jason felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps he could still break free from the cult's grasp. With a newfound determination, he turned to Ade. We need to find a way to stop this. I can't let them control me any longer. Together, they made a plan to confront the Shadow Collective and uncover their secrets. That night, Jason returned to the old building, armed with the knowledge that he was not alone. Ade stood beside him, both ready to face the darkness together. As they entered, Jason's heart raced with a mix of fear and courage. He knew the cult would not let him go easily, but he was determined to reclaim his life. The air felt electric, then the shadows danced around them, whispering secrets of despair. But Jason and Ode stood firm, united against the darkness that threatened to consume them both. Jason and Ode stood at the entrance of the old building, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The shadows seemed to whisper as they stepped inside, the air thick with an oppressive energy. Jason clenched his fists, knowing they had to confront the cult and uncover the truth behind the rituals that had ensnared him. As they moved deeper into the building, they could hear the chants of the cult echoing through the halls. The members gathered in a large room, their eyes glowing with an unsettling light. Jason felt a wave of dread wash over him, but he pushed it aside. He had to stay focused. "We need to find their leader," Jason whispered to Ode. Together, they crept toward the gathering, blending into the shadows. But just as they reached the door, the figure stepped out, blocking their path. It was the woman who had first welcomed Jason into the cult. "Going somewhere?" she asked, her smile wide and unsettling. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "You can't escape what you've become, Jason. The shadows are a part of you now." "No. I refuse to be a pawn in your game," he shouted, stepping forward defiantly. Ode stood beside him, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The woman's smile faded, replaced by an expression of anger. "You think you can defy us? The power you sought was never yours to control." With a swift motion, she raised her hands, and the shadows swirled around them, growing thicker and more ominous. Jason felt the shadows tugging at him, trying to pull him back into their grasp. Panic surged within him, but he clenched his jaw, determined not to give in. "We are not afraid of you," he yelled, finding strength in his voice. The woman laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the walls. "You should be. The shadows thrive on fear and despair. And you have given them both in abundance." She gestured, and the shadows around Jason and Ode thickened, wrapping around them like chains. Just as he felt himself being pulled under, a burst of light erupted from Ade's side. "Not today," he shouted, swinging his arms wide. The light pierced through the darkness, causing the shadows to retreat momentarily. Jason took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of his friend's bravery. "Together, Jason," Ode urged, and in that moment, Jason realized that their bond was stronger than the darkness surrounding them. He concentrated on the light, focusing on his desire to break free from the cult's control. The shadows writhed and twisted, fighting against their combined strength. But with each passing moment, Jason felt the darkness weakening. The cult members gasped in shock, their faces contorting with anger and fear. "We will not be bound by your shadows," Jason shouted, the words resonating with power. The light grew brighter, illuminating the room, and the shadows began to dissolve. But just as they thought they had won, the woman's voice cut through the chaos. "This isn't over, Jason. You may escape today, but the shadows will always be with you. You will never be free." Jason and Ode stumbled out of the building, breathless and shaken. The echoes of the cult's chants lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the darkness they had narrowly escaped. They leaned against a nearby wall, the cool breeze offering a moment of relief. "What just happened?" Ode asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Did we really break free?" Jason shook his head, still trying to process the events. "I thought we could confront them, but it feels like the shadows are still looming over us." They walked through the streets of Lagos, the night sky stretching above them, dotted with stars. But even the beauty of the night couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to Jason's heart. He had escaped the cult, but their threat still lingered, like a dark cloud over his life. The following days were a blur. Jason tried to return to a sense of normalcy, but it felt impossible. Every time he scrolled through his social media, he could feel the shadows creeping back in. The likes and followers that had once brought him joy now felt like chains binding him to his past. One evening, as he scrolled through his feed, he saw a post from one of the cult members. It was a picture of the rituals they had performed, and Jason's heart sank. The caption read, "The shadows never forget." A chill ran down his spine as he realized the cult was still watching him. He felt a surge of anger and frustration. "I won't let them control me," he shouted, throwing his phone across the room. Ade, who had been sitting beside him, looked alarmed. "Jason, you need to calm down. They thrive on fear. If you let them get to you, they win." "I know. But how can I move on when they're always in the background, taunting me?" Jason's voice cracked with emotion. He felt trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and despair. He needed a plan to regain control over his life and break free from the cult's influence once and for all. That night, as he lay in bed, Jason decided to confront the shadows head-on. He would not let them dictate his life any longer. He would gather information about the cult, learn their weaknesses, then find a way to break their hold. He reached for his laptop, determined to uncover the truth. As he searched online, he stumbled upon a blog dedicated to exposing the dark practices of cults in Lagos. It detailed rituals, testimonies, and the hidden costs of power. Jason felt a spark of hope ignite within him. He had to delve deeper. But as he read, he began to notice something strange. The comment section was filled with stories of people who had been caught in the cult's grasp, detailing their experiences. Among the comments, one caught his eye: "Once you enter the shadows, it's almost impossible to escape." A shiver ran down his spine. Determined to find a way to break free from the cult's grip, Jason and Ade met in a secluded cafe. They sat in a corner booth, away from prying eyes, discussing their plan. "We need to gather more information about the Shadow Collective. The blog had some good insights, but we need to dig deeper," Ade suggested. "Maybe we can find someone who's left the cult," Jason replied, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we can learn their secrets, we might be able to use it against them." They spent the next few days researching, poring over articles, blogs, and forums. Slowly, they began to piece together the cult's history. They learned about the rituals, the sacrifices, albeit animal sacrifices, and the psychological games the cult played to manipulate its members. As they delved deeper, Jason noticed a recurring theme: the cult preyed on those desperate for success. It thrived on their fears, feeding off the despair of others to gain power. The realization hit Jason hard: he had been a pawn in their game, feeding their darkness with his own insecurities. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Jason stumbled upon a live stream featuring a former member of the cult. Intrigued, he clicked on it, feeling a sense of urgency. The woman spoke passionately about her experiences, detailing how she had escaped the cult's clutches and regained control of her life. Jason and Ade exchanged glances, their hearts racing with hope. "We need to reach out to her," Ade urged. They quickly typed a message explaining their situation and asking for guidance. A few days passed, and just when Jason felt like giving up, he received a reply. "Meet me at the old library on Saturday at 3 p.m., the message read. Excitement surged through him, they finally had a lead. On the day of the meeting, Jason and Ade arrived at the library, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The dimly lit room was filled with dusty books, a fitting backdrop for a conversation about the darkness they were about to confront. A woman with piercing eyes approached them, her presence commanding. "You're Jason and Ade?" she asked, her voice steady. They nodded, a mix of hope and apprehension swirling within them. "I know why you're here. The Shadow Collective is powerful, but you can reclaim your lives," she said, her gaze unwavering. "But it won't be easy. You must confront your fears and understand the true nature of the shadows." Jason felt a flicker of determination igniting within him. "What do we need to do?" he asked, eager to break free from the darkness that had consumed him for so long. The woman smiled slightly, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. First, you must understand that the shadows thrive on despair. You must confront your fears head-on and expose the truth. Only then can you begin to break their hold. As they spoke, Jason's mind raced with thoughts of the cult, the shadows, and the journey ahead. He knew it would be a long and difficult road, but he was ready to fight for his humanity. Together, they would reclaim their lives from the darkness. After their meeting with the former cult member, Jason and Ade left the library with a renewed sense of purpose. They had learned that confronting their fears was the first step toward breaking free from the Shadow Collective. But Jason's heart felt heavy as he realized how deeply rooted his fears had become. As they walked through the bustling streets of Lagos, the sounds of the city filled their ears, laughter, music, and the honking of cars. But Jason couldn't shake the feeling of dread that hung over him. What if I can't face my fears? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ade placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You can do this, Jason. Remember, we are in this together. You have to believe in yourself. Jason nodded, but doubt lingered in his mind. That night, Jason lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Memories of his rise to success flooded his mind, the likes, the followers, the attention. But now, those memories felt tainted by the darkness that had enveloped him. He felt trapped in a web of his own making. Determined to confront his fears, Jason decided to write them down. He grabbed a notebook and began to jot down everything that frightened him, the fear of failure, the fear of being alone, the fear of losing everything he had gained. With each word, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The next day, Jason and Ade returned to the library to meet the former cult member again. I've been thinking about what you said, Jason confessed as they settled into a quiet corner. I want to confront my fears, but I don't know how. The woman nodded, her expression serious. Fear is a powerful force, but it can also be your greatest ally. You need to face it head-on. One way to do that is by performing a ritual of your own. Use the shadows against themselves. Jason felt a rush of excitement and fear. What kind of ritual? He asked, eager to learn more. You'll need to create a space of your own, somewhere sacred to you. Then, light a candle and meditate on your fears. Allow them to wash over you, then visualize them transforming into light, she explained. It's about taking control of your narrative. Jason felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. I'll do it, he declared. I'll confront my fears and take back my life. That evening, Jason set up his ritual in his small apartment. He lit a candle and closed his eyes, taking deep breaths. As he meditated, the fears he had written down swirled in his mind, images of failure, loneliness, and despair. But instead of succumbing to them, he focused on transforming them. As he visualized the darkness turning to light, he felt a surge of energy flowing through him. The shadows that had once seemed so powerful began to fade, replaced by a warm, golden glow. In that moment, Jason realized he was taking back control of his life. But as he opened his eyes, the chilling realization washed over him. The cult would not take this lightly. They would come for him, seeking to reclaim their hold over his life. The following days passed in a blur of determination for Jason. With Ade's support, he focused on confronting his fears and reclaiming his life. But deep down, he knew that the Shadow Collective would not let him go without a fight. One evening, as they prepared to meet the former cult member again, Jason received a message on his phone. It was from an anonymous account, and the message sent chills down his spine. You cannot escape the shadows, Jason. They will find you. Panic surged within him as he showed the message to Ade. What do they want? I thought we were free from them. Ade's eyes widened with concern. We need to be careful. They know you're trying to break free. Despite the fear gnawing at him, Jason refused to back down. I won't let them control me anymore. I have to face them. Ade nodded, understanding the weight of Jason's decision. Then we'll confront them together. At the library, they met with the former cult member again, sharing their fears and the anonymous message. She listened intently, her expression grave. The shadows are relentless. But you have the power to fight back. You must gather more information and expose them. Jason felt a surge of determination. How do we do that? By infiltrating their gatherings and discovering their weaknesses, she replied. But you must be careful. They can sense fear, and they will not hesitate to manipulate you. That night, Jason and Ade made a plan to attend one of the Shadow Collective's meetings. They knew it would be risky, but they were desperate for answers. We'll go undercover, Ade suggested. We can blend in with the crowd. As they prepared for the meeting, Jason felt a mix of fear and excitement. He donned a hoodie and jeans, trying to look inconspicuous. Remember, we are doing this to reclaim your life, Ode reminded him, his voice steady. When they arrived at the designated location, a dimly lit warehouse, Jason's heart raced. They slipped inside, the air thick with tension. Cult members milled about, their eyes glinting with a strange light. Jason and Ode found a spot at the back, trying to blend in. The atmosphere was charged, filled with whispers and the occasional flicker of shadows. As the leader stepped onto the stage, Jason's breath caught in his throat. It was the same woman who had taunted him before. Tonight, we gather to celebrate the power of the shadows, she declared, her voice echoing through the warehouse. Those who dare to defy us will learn the true cost of their choices. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine. The weight of the darkness hung heavily in the air, and he knew they were in the lion's den. But he was determined to gather information, to find a way to fight back. As the meeting progressed, Jason focused on the details, the chants, the rituals, and the way the members responded to the leader's commands. He noted their reactions to the shadows, their fear mingling with an unsettling excitement. But just as he felt a sense of empowerment, he noticed something disturbing. One of the cult members was staring directly at him, eyes filled with an unsettling familiarity. Jason's heart raced as he recognized the man. It was a former colleague who had been part of his rise to fame. What is he doing here? Jason muttered to Ade, panic gripping him. He's one of them. Ade's eyes widened in horror. We need to get out of here. Now. But before they could make a move, the leader's voice cut through the chaos. Jason, you can't hide from your past. You've already become one with the shadows. Has Jason become one with the shadows? Or has he not? We are about to find out in the next episode. Join us.